Good Friday evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe as we come to you on Final Four weekend. The dance is coming to an end for both the ladies and the men this weekend. Big games all over the place. A lot of intriguing matchups. A couple of one big time spoiler at the dance um, in North Carolina State. But we have a lot to look forward to this weekend, including a matchup tonight, which I usually don't watch a lot of ladies basketball. Forgive me for that. Mea culpa, mea culpa. Being a guy from Connecticut, I shouldn't be that way. But Iowa against UConn, it's going to bring huge numbers, I think, tonight. And it's kind of strange. I knew it was strange. It was kind of like God telling me I had to watch it today because we did have an earthquake on the East Coast today, which I
Yep.
felt this morning at 10:30. So we have an earthquake. I'm watching women's basketball. Let's just say everything's coming to an end.
Yeah. Well, I live here in Knoxville, Tennessee, which, Connecticut, Tennessee, those are
Oh,
the
huge.
two, they're the two that have the most national championships. And I've got to be honest, I don't watch it either. It's nothing against it.
No.
I have to draw the line somewhere, Joe. I watch every college football game I can
Well, that's
possibly find a screen. I watch every NFL football game that I can get on any of my devices. I watch nearly every, once football ends, I watch a lot of NBA. I watch every college football game that Tennessee plays. I watch every college basketball game that Tennessee and Duke play. I watch every college basketball game that I can get my hands on from ranked teams, and I got to draw the line somewhere, Joe.
Yeah, and I watch hockey, so I got that going for me, which is nice. But
Yes.
it's like it is. You're right. At some point, as much as intriguing everything is, you got to watch a movie or read a book or something. Otherwise, you'll just tear your hair out. Before we get started, I want to start with the ladies tonight. But last night, I don't know if you watched the game. Great game between Seton Hall and Indiana State. Seton Hall wins the NIT. Maybe it's kind of their way of giving the NCAA the finger, saying, maybe we should have been there. It was an exciting game. It was good, for that program to win some kind of a championship after they had such a good season this year and basically got screwed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Big East is obviously proven to be a pretty good conference, and I've been impressed with watching those teams play. Creighton, I know they went down to Tennessee, but they gave them everything they could handle. In my opinion, UConn has looked like the best team in the entire tournament. I think that's what we saw, and I was happy to see those two teams slug it out and have a really good game because the NIT has just become so diluted. It used to be a really exciting tournament, and teams would be excited. If they didn't get into the NCAA, they'd be like, well, we're going to go to the NIT and try and make some noise there. And it was a real privilege to get invited to it. Now, a lot of teams turn it down and don't even go. So I think, I'm glad that they had a good championship game. I think a lot of people watched it. A lot more people than I anticipated ended up tuning in, I think.
And also having Indiana State in the arena in Indianapolis added a lot of life to the game atmosphere there. It was a home game for them and huge for them. Indiana's a big basketball state. I agree with you. The NIT, it's what we're going through with the bowls too. The thing is that the NIT, people forget, is it has been a jumping off point for UConn. They won the NIT before Jim Calhoun was able to build that program into an NCAA champion. So it can be a stepping stone and a building block to put you on the way to becoming a consistent NCAA team. A lot of teams have used it as a good experience. You're going out there. Most of the teams get there to have winning records. And they are tough teams. I mean, Indiana State, I think, was like 33-6 this year.
Yeah, and I think about what is it? South Carolina. They went to the NIT. I think in 2015, I believe, and 2016. and then ended up going to their first Final Four when they took care of business there with Frank Martin when they upset the number 2 Duke team and made the Sweet 16, and then the Elite beat Baylor in the Elite 8, and then got to their Final Four. So that was another program that really built themselves into a good basketball team by playing some meaningful games in the NIT.
All right, let's start out with the ladies tonight. Iowa against UConn. You got two of right now the hottest women right now as far as playing right now. Caitlin Clark and Paige Buckers for UConn. Right now, both of them are just seem night in, night out to just have their game just too hot to handle. So that's going to be an intriguing matchup tonight. And you got Gino Auriemma, who's been around forever, holds all kinds of coaching records. He put these girls on the map. This, I think South Carolina and North Carolina State's getting overshadowed by this game. And it's kind of weird when you think about the fact that even if you think about how the whole tournament has been, everything's been about Caitlin Clark, and believe me, she deserves all the credit she can get. But South Carolina's they're all coming up on 40 straight games without a loss?
Correct.
And it's like, it's not, and they've been number one in the nation from beginning to end, but it's not, they're so overshadowed. I tell you, Dawn Staley's got a lot to use today, a lot of fodder to put up on her blackboard and say, you're getting no respect.
Oh, she loves it. She loves it. And she's used this the entire season, like, hey, we're the number 1 ranked team. We're undefeated and no one's even talking about you guys. And, that's what, makes her such a great coach. She's a very good motivator. She's an excellent coach. And, what I've seen mainly with the South Carolina women's program is she's been able to adapt her teams, based on the strengths of the players that she has. I mean, she doesn't have Caitlin Clark this year. She doesn't have an Angel Reese or a person, Rebecca Lobo or Diana Taurasi or whoever you want to call it. She doesn't have one of those players that's, a player of the year candidate or, a winner of the player of the year, but she has the best team. And I think she's going to roll in. Also, kind of crazy. No one's even talking about it. NC State's in the women's Final Four and the men's.
Yeah. And both.
Yeah, and nobody picked them, but it's very. I cannot remember the last time that a school had was represented in the men's Final Four and the women's Final Four, and this year we have 2 teams. So I think that's really cool and pretty crazy because I can't tell you the last time that happened.
I want to say, and I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I have this feeling that Duke did it one year. I think Duke was in the Final Four. I think they ended up losing to like Notre Dame, the women. Maybe I'm wrong. No, Notre Dame never made the final. No, I think Duke did it, and they lost to Notre Dame. I think that was it.
That sounds right. I believe that Duke had a couple of really good women's teams there for a couple of years, and I think they did have them both in. But that was a while ago.
Right. It is weird. What do you think? Like, let's talk about the second game. Does Gino's experience in this kind of a game give UConn an upper hand, even though Caitlin Clark might be the best player on the court?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, whether you like this guy or not, which most people do not, what can you say? I mean, he's won 11 national championships. This guy's won the National Coach of the Year 8 times. This is nothing new for this guy. I'm not saying that he's not going to take it lightly or anything, but I'm saying this is another day at the office for this guy, and I think he'll have these girls ready. I definitely think it gives them advantage. He's been to the Final Four 23 times.
Yeah.
That's just absolutely bonkers to even think about. I never thought anybody would ever take down Pat Summitt's records, but this guy has definitely done it. I mean, if you look at his overall coaching record, he is 12 1,200 wins, 1,213 wins over 161 losses. That to me is just
Ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I don't even think that gets talked enough about because that is absolutely nuts. In the NCAA tournament, he's 137-23. So, just looking at that, I don't know how you can pick against them, but Iowa last I checked was favored by 3.5, and I think I would give Connecticut 3 points just for their coach themselves.
When you were talking about Gino, and I know a little bit about Gino. I know he does a lot of good things in the state. But he comes off. The guy who came to mind for me when you were just talking about Gino and his personality and how he rubs people the wrong way. He's got a little Calipari in him. You know what I mean?
Well, he's just kind of a dick. I mean, I'm sorry. I've met the guy a couple of times. I used to, run those Nike basketball coaches clinics all throughout the Midwest, and he always came to the Pittsburgh Nike coaches show. And I got to tell you, some of these guys were just you couldn't believe how nice they were.
Oh, yeah.
Lute Olson was always there, nicest guy in the world. Coach K would always come to the one up. Actually, the one up in Connecticut at the Mohegan Sun, I used to go to that one every year, and Coach K always spoke at that one, and he was nice. I always liked Jim Calhoun. He would always sit down and talk with us and have a drink with us while we were in the the green room or where the coaches would hang out in between their speaking sessions. But this guy I don't know if he just has a chip on his shoulder because he feels like people look at him differently because he's a women's coach or something, but he just I did not care for the man, and just I can't think of another word besides dick, because that's what sticks in my mind from meeting him.
I think like I said, I think he has a little Calipari in him. I think a lot of times, especially when he was winning consistently through 2000 to 2018, 2019. His teams were just the bullies. It was, you looked up and you go, well, they got better players. The perception was he doesn't really coach; he recruits. He put together a great program. He gets the best players to come up there, and he rolls out the basketball, and luckily he's been able to dominate with it. And I think that's a lot of the opinion of it. But he has been a little bit more than that. He's done a lot, but it has got to be hard for him because as we've talked about when we first came on, I said, like someone like me, I watch the men religiously, and I'll watch him when it comes to tournament time because I don't want to see him blow out Providence by 50. It's like, why? Why am I watching my time there? I'm sorry. Even though I give him credit because he put it together, so I don't want to take anything away from him. So anyways, then we got, is there any chance for North Carolina State in the first game?
I don't think so. I mean, anything can happen in one basketball game, but, like I mentioned, Don Staley has just done a phenomenal job this year. I mean, it's not like they haven't played a tough schedule. I mean, they've played teams that have been gunning for them every single night and really good teams. And they've figured out a way to win. I mean, hell, they were missing half the team that one night and still came out with the victory. And Tennessee had them beat in the SEC tournament, and they were down by 2. And a girl who hadn't made a 3-pointer all year, chucked one up from half court and banked it in. So, not only do they have a lot of talent, not only do they have a phenomenal coach, but they seem to have that it factor, that teams that are, on a championship run, kind of, you got to get the ball's got to bounce your way. And it seems like it's doing that for them this year.
Let's go over to the men's side. We'll start out with the Dan Spoiler, North Carolina State, and I know down in Raleigh they're probably just sitting there praying to Valvano for a miracle here, another miracle run. A lot of similarities, but not a lot of similarities there. I think they played Nevada, Las Vegas before they played Houston, but big thing they have to go against is Eddie and Purdue, and my feelings about Purdue. This is the kind of game over the course of his career Kevin Painter is blown, and you have the hottest team in the well, I don't want to say the hottest team in the tournament. You have a team right now that's playing with house money, and can Kevin Painter change the course of his narrative?
He's done it so far. I mean, this is a team that got knocked out in the first round last year, and this year they've completely changed the narrative thus far and survived some big games. But I don't know how you can look at NC State and not just be completely blown away by what they have done, starting with the ACC tournament. They played Louisville and beat them 94-85. They played Syracuse, knocked them off. They took down Duke, which I can't believe I'm saying. Then they played Virginia, which they had to hit a deep 3 to even send it into overtime. And then they ended up taking over in overtime. And then they beat, one of the top 4 teams in the country in the ACC championship. And you're like, wow, they're just going to be kind of glad to be in the NCAA tournament. Well, not so fast, my friend. They took down a good Texas Tech team by a lot, 80-67 in the first round. Then they took out, very veteran, talented Oakland team who had just beat Kentucky the game before. Then they knocked off number 2 seed Marquette. And everybody's like, well, here they, now they're running into Duke. And then they took care of business against Duke. So, I would not be surprised if they are if they come away, winning this game. I mean, Coach Keats was getting no credit before he made this run, but I think people are taking notice now.
What do you think the key is going to be? I think you have to concede that Eddie is going to get points. He's going to get points. He's going to get rebounds. What would you do as a North Carolina State team? Would you try and up the tempo, maybe make it where at least make the big man run up and down the court? Maybe you get him to the bench a little bit more. Maybe you get some, do some trapping defense, do some pressing. Just try and keep it away from him, or just get the tempo up. What would you do?
I think that they're going to probably do a lot of the same things that Tennessee did. I mean, I know that Tennessee ended up losing, and people were upset about that. And Rick Barnes was obviously the one that was the most devastated, but he had a good game plan. I mean, his whole game plan was we're gonna play Edey one-on-one and do the best job we possibly can on him, and we're gonna keep everybody else from beating us. And they did it. I think Purdue was 3 of 15 from 3-point land. Nobody else really did much of anything against Tennessee. And, unfortunately, it was just a really the way that the game was officiated. I'm not saying that the refs decided the game, but he shot 22 free throws and, made 17 of them. So that was the difference in the game. And, NC State has a little bit more beef. And, of course, I'm talking about your boy DJ Burns. Yeah. If anybody can get a body on Zach Edey, it's DJ Burns. I mean, I know DJ pretty well. He's from Charlotte down here in the Southeast. He played for a year at Tennessee, was recruited by Coach Barnes. Then he transferred to Winthrop, right back at Rock Hill, South Carolina, where he's from. And then, played really well, and then went to NC State. And he's played the last 2 years in NC State. He just has a different game than anyone that I've seen in a long time. He's kind of a point center. If there is such a thing, they run the offense through him. He's a guy that can facilitate and get other guys scoring, and he's another guy that could also fill it up. I mean, he had 29 points against Duke. So I feel like if anybody's going to take down Purdue, I think NC State probably has the best chance, or UConn, because they've got a good big man as well.
He reminds me a lot of a guy I used to play when I was in a lot better shape. May I say I was a lot better shape. But when I was playing pickup basketball, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, we had this guy, Everett McNeil, and he was built like that. And he could pass the hell out of a basketball. And we'd always pick him on our side just because we knew he'd get a lot of assists and you get a lot of layups out of it. So it was nice. It was a nice combination there. Going over to the UConn side of the ball, Alabama's not going to be a walkover. UConn, I've said this so many times, throughout this tournament. I think overall this might be the deepest UConn team I've ever seen. But the one thing that worries me is their penchant for playing close first halves, and then something happens, and it's amazing. The second half, they come out, and it's like they just go on a tear, like, 15-0, 30-0, 25-1. It's like, and they've been able to do that. But, sometimes that comes back to bite you. Sometimes, you come out of halftime and you're thinking, we're going to get it, we're going to get it, we're going to get it, and it doesn't come around. Alabama is not the team you want to do that against.
True. I mean, Alabama can score. They can fill it up with the best of them. But I look back at the Illinois game and the way that Connecticut just owned the second half. I mean, it just wasn't even close.
Right.
And you have to think, I mean, in the last 2 years, the Connecticut Huskies have not won a game by less than 13 points, Joe. I mean, I've never seen anything like this in my life. I mean, even going back to, you mentioned UNLV earlier, and the Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon team that were just blowing people out. I never have seen a team that won this many games in a row by 13 points or more. So I feel pretty good about them. I mean, Alabama is certainly a team that can give them trouble. But Alabama is going to have to be hitting shots if they're going to, take care of business and knock off UConn. They're going to have a big night shooting. Mark Sears is going to have to throw it up. They're going to have a big night from Grant Nelson, a guy who is kind of inconsistent but had a really big game. A couple of I can't remember which game it was where I think it was the North Carolina game where he really, really showed up. I think he had 24 points. He was 6 of 9 from the field and 10 of 13 from the free throw line. And Grant Nelson was the difference in that game. And he was, matched up against Baycott, who's a big time player. So I think you're going to have both those guys going, Nelson and Sears, if they're going to have any shot.
I'd have to think to find a streak like UConn's on right now, you'd have to go back to the UCLA's of the late, the 60s and 70s when they had, Jabbar, and then they had Walton. Probably those kind of teams had that kind of, but they only did it for 4 games. They didn't have to do it for 7 games.
Right.
I mean, it's like it's like, and they didn't. I don't think I know UCLA didn't have a conference tournament. So, like, you think about that puts it on a spectacular level.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, this is 2 years in a row. I mean, it's one thing if they get real hot and they knock off everybody, for one year, but 2 years in a row, getting this far and winning like they have, it's very, very impressive, and I hope they keep it up because I've just been so impressed with Coach Hurley and what he's built there. After Coach Calhoun left, they had that one season with Kevin Ollie, and they managed to get something going, and then it was kind of like, oh, now the program seems to be dropping off, and he's rekindled the flame and got the magic back in the Huskies program, and it's been fun to watch. I'm not a Huskies fan, but I certainly have been enthralled with watching this basketball team. I mean, if you like basketball, you got to enjoy watching these guys play.
A couple of things here. First of all, I think Hurley was the perfect choice to come in there, and because he's a rat. He's a gym rat. He was raised by a father who's a great coach and a great disciplinarian. His older brother was a phenomenal point guard. It's a basketball family. The other thing I think that really has helped a lot is getting them back in the Big East.
Yeah.
To give them a real a stage to renew the old rivalries. They flourished. Getting back there and being part of the Big East, and it, just like Marquette's flourished, St. John's has a chance to flourish. Seton Hall has a chance to flourish. We could be on the doorstep of the Big East becoming what it used to be.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way, and I love it, and everybody, even myself, I have to admit, was thinking that maybe the ACC was dropping off, and it seemed like some of the big name coaches. I was listening to Coach K's Basketball and Beyond show, and I think he kind of spelled it out best. Coach K retired, Roy Williams retired, Jim Boeheim retired, and a lot of these big name coaches moved on and left the ACC conference. And I think people kind of took that in that the conference isn't going to be as good anymore. And it's not true. I mean, these teams, look at them. I mean, we saw it. All 4 teams got in. 4 teams were in the Sweet 16. I mean, I don't think we can stress that enough, considering nobody gave the ACC a shot in having this much success. And here we are. If Duke and NC State didn't have to play each other, we'd probably be having even more ACC teams in the Final Four. So kudos to the league, and I wish that the league would have been better managed, I guess, because back when they had the big heavy hitters, when they had Roy Williams in North Carolina, when they had Boeheim in Syracuse, when they had Duke and Coach K, they didn't promote the other teams. And I feel like that was a disservice to the ACC as a whole, because, no one really talks about Wake Forest. No one really talks about NC State.
Georgia
no one
Tech.
Talks about Georgia Tech. No one talks about these other teams that are very good, Virginia and some of these other teams that are very good programs. And I think we've learned that the Tobacco Row is still alive and well.
One thing I was really happy with college basketball this year is I've noticed, and I don't know if maybe I'm dreaming about this, but I've noticed that the style of play, yes, they still all love the 3-pointers, but they're attacking the basket more this year, it seems, than it had for a little while. They're getting back to trying to get backdoor plays, trying to get to the hoop, not just sitting out there dribble. Okay, settle for a 3, or kick it around till you get the open 3. They're actually attacking the basket, which makes for such a more exciting game. I wish the pros would look down at that and go, hey, let's get back to that, a little bit of that ourselves. You don't have to launch, 25 threes. I know probably the mathematicians will tell me I'm wrong, but when you watch the game, it's so much more exciting when they're attacking the hoop.
Yeah, and I think the evolution of the big man has come back to college basketball. I mean, if you recall, when I was a kid, you had Shaq, and you had all these big
David
guys,
Robinson,
Leitner, and Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Shaquille O'Neal,
Alonzo Mourning,
Dikembe Mutombo. I mean, it just went on, and the big men. They kind of ran the league and ran college basketball, and that's come back. I mean, you look at Edey with Purdue, you look at Donovan Clingan with UConn, you look at DJ Burns, who we already talked about from NC State, and these teams really rely on their big guys and run their offense through them. And these guys, they can shoot for sure. But these aren't the NBA big guys that chuck threes up nonstop like Porzingis and your favorite Kristaps over there who's shooting 25 threes a night. These guys will play with their back to the basket.
7'6", 6'2".
Yeah. They're these guys are really playing ball. And you look at who's the best player in the NBA right now. It's Nikola Jokic, for the Nuggets, and he's a center. Who, he is kind of a point center too, who they certainly facilitate the offense through, but he can play with his back to the basket as well, Joe. Yeah. And I think these college programs are taking notice of that and using that. I mean, Joel Embiid won the MVP last year, and he, he's been hurt this year, I know, but he's certainly one of the best players in the NBA. Giannis. Up with the Milwaukee Bucks. Well, there you go. I mean, there's another guy who's a center and a big man who's dominating. So it's been interesting to see a little bit of the big man come back. And look who the number 1 pick was, Victor Wembanyama with the Spurs, and he's certainly been pretty impressive in year 1. So it's nice to see the big guy big guys come back in college basketball.
Well, I think I think I'd like to use a golf analogy. I mean, it's nice to have that fancy wedge in your bag when you need it, but you don't have to use it just because you use it. I mean, it's nice as Porzingis can throw up a three, but when he's throwing up a three, he's 20 feet from the hoop. He's not in position for a rebound, and if he misses, nobody else probably is going to get it. It's like like I said, it's nice to have, but you don't have to use it all the time. Use it when it makes sense, and that's all I have to say about it. I mean, it just drives me crazy. And I want to make this a short uh, one this Friday night because I just want to stick with the NCAA, but I have to get you in on this because you are my basketball aficionado. Um, Knicks, huge loss now. Randall, rest of the year. I mean, this team has been phenomenal all year long, but injuries have really sapped them. They have what's his name, the guy they got from Detroit that's got the elbow injury that he's not been able to get back fully healthy yet. A lot is coming down on Brunson's shoulders. Hart's a little beat up right now. Hartenstein's been a warrior working his way through. It'd be nice if Mitchell Robinson could give him about 12 minutes a night, but who knows with him. What do you think about the Knicks' chances right now?
I hate to say this because I'm a Knicks fan, but I don't see them. I just can't see them handling one of these other teams in a 7-game series without Julius Randle. I mean, Jalen Brunson has come in and been, the guy that they hoped he would be, and just has blown me away with all he's done and just been truly amazing. But think about Randle this year. I mean, even missing some games with other injuries and being out some, he's averaged 24 points and almost 10 rebounds a game, 5 assists. I mean, he is the guy that kind of makes it happen. And I just have a hard time believing that they're going to, be able to withstand the East without him.
Yeah, it's funny when we talk about it because you and I were the ones 2 years ago when everybody in the Knicks everybody around the Knicks wanted to get rid of Randall. We're like, yeah, like he can replace 24 and 10 easy.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but he's a guy that doesn't mind sharing the rock. He's a guy that doesn't mind, getting his teammates involved and being a team guy. I've got so much respect for his game and what he's done since coming into the league, out of Kentucky.
I mean, if you think about it logically, when he was taking when he was sitting there and they were trying to run him out of town, everybody's he's a ball hog. He's that. Who on the Knicks could he throw the ball to?
Nobody.
You had Derrick Rose on his last legs. Outside of Derrick Rose, who could he throw the ball to?
Nobody.
I mean, you see now when he's got players around him that he shares it with no problem. But probably he looked at it and said, well, nobody else is going to make this shot, so I guess I have to try and be the hero. Sometimes it comes down to that.
Yeah, he was scoring 30 a night when he had to.
Right.
And, that was just kind of a product of the team he was on. And, we saw him, I think it was 2020, 2021, he was averaging around 25 points and had a bunch of 40-point games and was shooting a lot, but he had to, based on, what he had around him. But now, he's become a guy that just, is a team first guy, and he's bought into Thibodeau's system. And I feel really bad for him that, he's out for the season, because I think that does them in.
What do you think about Brunson? Will he get any MVP looks?
Man, I don't know how you could not bring him in the conversation. We just went over his numbers a minute ago. This guy he's been everything they've wanted. He's averaging almost 30 points a game. He's averaging 28 points and still throwing up 7 assists a night. It's not like he doesn't facilitate the offense. He does. And but he's also a big time scorer. And the other thing I like is, he's played in 71 games thus far, and he's started all 71 of them. He's averaging 35 minutes a night, He's been available. I don't know what else. What more do you want?
I gotcha. And before we go, Stefan Diggs to Houston. C.J. Stroud now has another weapon. God bless him. I think Houston's going to be a force to be reckoned with as long as Stroud is healthy and upright. That's easy to say. But what does this say about Buffalo right now and the direction they're going to go in?
I know that they're trying to do damage control up there and trying to act like it's not that big of a deal, that they've moved on from the guys that they've moved on from. But when you look at it and you analyze this from a holistic standpoint, I always look, replacing talent for talent, right?
Right.
And what's gone? Okay, Stephon Diggs, 160 targets. Okay, Gabe Davis, 81 targets. That's 241 pass attempts thrown those guys' way. Well, what do you got there out of that? 152 catches, almost 1,900 yards, and 15 touchdowns. That's what you've lost. And what have you done to replace that? Nothing. So they say that the window hasn't closed. They're saying all the right things, but let's talk about what's gone. We just talked about what's gone. Let's talk about what's here. Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins. That's who Josh Allen's going to be throwing the ball to. I mean, those guys don't scare me at all.
No.
And it's not just on offense. The defense. Think about all the guys they've lost in the last couple of years. Milano was out all last year with an injury. He's going to be trying to come back. They lost Edmonds, last year. He moved on. Now they've lost, both of their safeties are gone. And I just, their corner, Tre'Davious White, he's gone. I'm looking at this roster and it is just a completely different thing. And I get it. They were up against it cap wise. Josh Allen's, was he a $55 million cap hit this year?
Right.
And they've already went to him to get some of that money back and convert it to, to signing bonus. But that new contract's just starting. So they can't really extend it out at this point. And they've just kind of got to do what they've got to do. But I feel like they could have had a little bit better of a plan, so to speak, with the wide receiver position. I mean, Stephon Diggs, we'll see how this works in Houston. Everybody says he's this huge problem, but he has 8 touchdowns and 1,000 yards every year. So I don't care how much of a problem a guy is. If he puts up 1,000 yards and almost 10 touchdowns, I'll deal with the problem. But, I feel like they should have drafted some younger wideouts or, signed Gabe Davis and kept him on the team. This is a guy who really, they brought in, they drafted him, they developed him, and now he's gone. It's like I'm scratching my head trying to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, it's almost, especially with the new stadium coming and everything else. It's like, don't you want excitement going into the new stadium? You don't want to be on your way down when you're opening up a new stadium. And I mean, I understand. The Jets are yet to be seen. Miami showed last year they're a playoff team. New England, yeah, they're rebuilding, but it doesn't mean you're going to have a walk to the division. And the more you're going to ask Josh Allen to do, I love Josh Allen. I think he's one of the most exciting football players, but he's got that little Brett Favre in him where he'll throw the ball where he shouldn't throw it and he'll try to be the star and put it on his back. And also, God forbid if he gets a little dinged up and he doesn't have the players around him he needs, could be big time trouble in Buffalo.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but Aaron Rodgers is coming back this year, hopefully. And so the Jets beat them last year without Aaron Rodgers. So, I think that division is going to be a lot tougher to climb. And I like what Houston's doing. Houston had all these guys on 1-year deals and just was trying to tread water, until they found the quarterback, after losing Deshaun Watson. Well, they found the quarterback, and now they're going all in. They got Joe Mixon from the Bengals. They got Stephon Diggs. They re-signed or they still have Nico Collins. They got Tank Dell. They got re-signed Dalton Schultz. I like their offensive line with Kenyon Green and Laramie Tunsil. And then they've added some pieces to the defense. They added Derek Barnett from the Eagles. They traded for him last year. They went out and got Danielle Hunter, who had 17 and a half sacks. They signed him in free agency to go along with with Will Anderson. And, they added Jeff Okudah, who, isn't the greatest corner in the world, but they added him for depth. They re-signed Desmond King. They've still got Derek Stinley. And I expect them to get another corner in the draft. So I really like what the Texans have done. And why not? I mean, if not the Texans, who? They can win this division, Joe. Yeah. And I don't think they're going to be satisfied with just making the playoffs anymore. They want to get in the playoffs and they want to make some noise.
Well, the thing is, this could be. No, I'm not going to get ahead of myself here. But if you look at the blueprint, even though he didn't sit behind anybody, it's kind of like Patrick Mahomes. It's like, okay, we got our quarterback now. Let's try and win now. Let's not wait. Let's try and win now. We got him on the acceptable deal. Let's start moving the pieces together and getting ourselves in line to where we maybe can build a dynasty out of this.
Well, yeah, and they've got a young coach. They've got a lot of young players who can be pieces that this franchise can use moving forward. And the division's ripe. The Titans don't scare me. The Colts don't scare me. The Jaguars had their problems last year. So why not go all in and try and win this division? And all you got to do is win the division, Joe, and you're in the playoffs. You win the division, you're in the playoffs. You got a home playoff game. And then after that, let the chips fall where they may. So build your team to win your division and get in the dance and then have a home game to work from. And then after that, see what happens. But I think I'm very impressed with what the general manager has done and ownership too, how they've let this team be built.
This could be Jerry Jones's biggest fear now, because if Houston suddenly becomes the best team in Texas,
yeah. Well, they're certainly being run a lot better. I mean, hell, the Cowboys. I don't know if you've noticed, but there hadn't been a whole lot of talk about them damn Cowboys because they can't do shit. They got $55 million wrapped up in the bank of Dak, and they don't even have him signed through next season. So this could be a make or break year for the Cowboys.
All right, before we get off, let's do our final four picks. Take the women's first.
All right, I got Iowa and I got South Carolina.
And the final, and who's going to win it?
I got South Carolina winning it all.
I'm going to stick with UConn. I think UConn's going to, unfortunately, Caitlin Clark for her. I feel sorry for her not making a final. I think UConn's going to get there, but I don't think they have enough guns to get past South Carolina. So I'm going with South Carolina over UConn. On the men's side.
Yeah, I've got UConn getting in, and I mean, as much as I said that, I Purdue's playing really good, so I got Purdue and UConn, and I'm hoping that UConn. I'm actually cheering for your boys. I'm hoping UConn wins it all, and I'm picking them.
Well, I'm going right down the road with you. I'm totally on that with you, on board with that. You know me, I can't stand Painter, and hey. Be nice to see UConn take another title back-to-back, first time since Florida and Billy Donovan. And that should be it for us tonight. Any big plans for the weekend? Ain't doing anything on Sunday? What?
No. I'm just trying to figure out what old Bronny James is doing entering the draft. How the fuck do you get 5 points a game and then tell everybody you're going in the draft? Who's drafting a point guard that averages 5 points, or a shooting guard that averages 5 points a game? I mean, I'm super confused. As you know, I'm a huge LeBron fan. I think he's one of the top three greatest players of all time. Mucho respect for him, but I don't know what the hell his son's doing, declaring for the NBA draft when he's no good in college.
Well, the thing about it is this is where, loved him or hated him. This is where David Stern would have taken LeBron aside and said, LeBron, for your son's own good. I mean, is it going to do – first of all, the kid doesn't need the money, A. Okay, there's no LeBron. Keep him in school. He'll do better there than to come up here and get beat up. Even if he goes to your team, you can't protect him 100% of the time. Guys are he doesn't have the game yet. So, but I don't know. It's LeBron. The family wants to see those two on the court together so bad. Uh, it'd be a shame to see the kid get embarrassed badly, but it looks like it's headed in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is even LeBron's doing this. This seems like he's letting his son kind of handle his own situation, and it's kind of backfired on him. I
Well,
think.
I think the whole thing is too. I think he said he was going to go to the transfer portal. Maybe when he got there, the coaches he was talking to said, "Yeah, you can come, but you're not going to walk on and be a starter. You
Yeah.
haven't shown it yet." So
No.
maybe he figures make the splash now because maybe he'll be revealed as never getting another chance at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a shame. All right, my friend. Good weekend. Enjoy the basketball. I will see you on Thursday. And remember, this goes back to the NFL next Thursday because we got the draft coming up very, very soon.
Yeah, I'm very interested to get your takes on some of these draft picks. And the one thing I'll say before we go, if I hear one more person talk to me about JJ McCarthy and how he's going to be the second pick in the NFL draft, I've never heard more smoke screens being blown up people's butts about one player in all my life. Joe, this guy threw the ball like 10 times a game in several of their contests. I mean, nothing against him. And do I think he should get drafted? Yes. Do I think someone should take him in the third round, second, third, fourth round? Yeah. I mean, why not? People overdraft quarterbacks all the time. But to sit here and tell me that this kid is one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in this draft is just a lie. It's a lie. I mean, I'm sorry. This guy was the worst, player on position group of his team. He didn't throw for 3,000 yards. He threw for 20 touchdowns, and a lot of those came against teams that they were beating, by 30 or 40 points. And I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it. And you can't sit here and tell me that if you look at tape of Michael Penix and you look at tape of JJ McCarthy and you think that JJ McCarthy's better, that's just not true.
No, all you have to do is Michael Penix. The shame of Michael Penix was I don't look at him for his Washington year. I look at what he was doing in Indiana before he got hurt. When you put Indiana on the map in the Big Ten, you're doing some heavy lifting. And yeah. I mean, that's when I was impressed with Penix. I mean, yes, he did a great job out in Washington, deserves all the credit in the world. But I mean, if you really want to see when he was at his best, I mean, that Indiana team had no business doing what they were doing when he was there.
Well, not only that, but everybody's like, "Oh, look at all the talent he had around him in Washington." Well, what was Washington doing before Michael Penix got there, Joe?
That's I agree. That's what I noticed. That was my point.
Think about all those games where one score games. Washington was losing towards the end. Washington lost their lead, and he orchestrated these victories because A, he believes in himself. B, he's a damn good quarterback who can throw from the pocket and who can win games by leading the team down the field consistently. This guy has proven it to me time and time again. And also, you know what else? If I'm looking at Bo Nix, we've been critical of Bo Nix. I've been critical of him. But when you put his season next to J.J. McCarthy's season, where he's thrown 45 touchdown passes and J.J. McCarthy's thrown 20, who the hell do you want? I mean, I don't know, man. I don't understand why we blow these guys from Michigan when they don't deserve it.
Well, they do that with a lot of these quarterbacks from national championship teams, and that's why I always say, if they're on a national championship team, take a look at the guys around them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that Michigan wasn't good at football. They were good. They were the best team. Deep. They were deep. They could run the ball. They had the best offensive line, the best defensive line. They had the best running backs. But do they have the best quarterback? Certainly not.
Not yet. Not under JJ McCarthy. All right, my friend. Good weekend. See you next week. Enjoy. Hopefully there's no aftershocks heading in my direction.
Yeah, get under the table, brother.
Yeah, that'll be a tight squeeze. Thanks.
All right, man. Adios.
Talk to you later.